Good morning, my name is Josh of CyclonesOZ, and here is your detailed forecast update for March 11th, 2025. A lot to get through in today's forecast update. We'll do a brief recap on the remnants of ex-tropical Cyclone Alfred, their impacts, and now where they're headed, and the rainfall that's occurred across southeast Queensland. Plenty of rainfall also expected across the North Queensland coastline, with up to 1,000mm of rainfall expected over the next 14 days, and a tropical cyclone also with the chance of developing offshore from the WA coastline. All of that plus more coming up in today's weather forecast. If you are brand new to the channel, please consider subscribing, but let's get stuck straight into things today over in the southeast of Queensland, where you can see that rainfall has dropped off over the last couple of hours, and there really isn't an awful lot around across the southeast of Queensland. Certainly the remnants of tropical Cyclone Alfred now fully dissipated and fully gone from the southeast of Queensland, which is very good news. Its marathon run has came to a very dull end by the looks of things across interior parts of Queensland and across the northeast of New South Wales. It was a disaster by every single metric, that's for sure. Tropical Cyclone Alfred has caused devastation left, right and centre across the southeast of Queensland and the northeast of New South Wales. The beach erosion down in the Gold Coast just beggars belief. It is incredible what we've seen down there. Trees down everywhere through Brisbane. Major flooding still ongoing across the southeast of Queensland, and I'll get to that in just a few moments. And the amount of rainfall accumulations and totals down there, whilst it's not their worst weather event on record, it's certainly the worst weather event that they've had in quite a long period of time. Their strongest tropical cyclone impact for at least 50 years of records down there across the southeast of Queensland. The most significant flooding event as well since either 2022 or right back towards 2011. It certainly has been a marathon run from tropical Cyclone Alfred, that's for sure. Some of the highest rainfall accumulations across the southeast of Queensland include 1,140mm at Upper Springbrook Alert, just south of the Hinds Dam in the southeast corner of Queensland in the Gold Coast hinterland. Some really significant rainfall accumulations were reported around that area, with a lot of rainfall swinging in from the first side of the tropical cyclone as well there, which has contributed to that in excess of 1,000mm rainfall total there. Rainfall accumulations between 400 and 600mm around suburban Brisbane over the 5-day period that tropical Cyclone Alfred made its landfall across the southeast of Queensland. Rainfall accumulations up to about 800mm into Redland City, and accumulations up to 1,000mm as well across the northwest of Brisbane out towards the Ivanhoe Dam area. Significant rainfall accumulations have led to a flooding emergency across the southeast of Queensland, with the vast majority of rivers and creeks at one point flowing out either moderate or major flooding alerts. The Bremer and the Brisbane rivers will take a couple of days to calm down, especially for the Bremer River, which is backed up quite significantly, and a lot of rainfall in the Bremer River catchment, and more rainfall still ongoing there is causing river levels to drop very slowly. The vast majority of rivers have already reached their peak, with ones that haven't reached their peak rising very slowly right now. So if you haven't been flooded and you were concerned about flooding out as a result of ex-tropical Cyclone Alfred, I reckon it is now time to breathe that sigh of relief. You're not going to be flooded out now. Water levels are not going to rise that much further unless for whatever reason a freak rainfall shower comes through, which is highly unlikely at this time. And whilst there is a little bit of developing rainfall here and there, it certainly isn't anything significant enough to push these rivers up even further, especially considering a lot of them are now beginning to drop in their catchment areas. Rainfall will take quite a while to flow through the Brisbane River, and as such significant drops in the Brisbane River area, and same for the Coomera and the Nerang rivers, will take quite a while to occur, and it looks like it will take a couple of days for all of the floodwaters to recede out of some of the suburbs in these areas here. And whilst conditions are going to become steadily more sunnier across the next couple of days, it certainly will take quite a long time for this water to fully evaporate all of that stagnant groundwater, which is just going to make the recovery effort quite difficult. There's some big trees down left, right and centre across the southeast of Queensland, some extensive damage across the northeast of New South Wales as well. Like I said, the beach erosion has been unfathomable. There's a whole array of photos over on my Facebook page as well, so make sure to go and check that out. But just, yeah, generally speaking, this is some really significant stuff that southeast Queensland has received. It's been their worst storm in, like I said, at least 10 years on the rainfall front, and their worst tropical cyclone impact in either 200 years of records, or it was very close to tropical cyclone Nancy's impact. Either way, the damage and the devastation has been incredible, and it's remarkable that we've only had one recorded fatality so far from the remnants of tropical Cyclone Alfred passing through the southeast of Queensland. Again, from flooding, it was always going to be the most significant impact, but when you're talking about 4 million people in the warning zone for some major flooding, to have one fatality is a testament to all of those early warnings that were put out. That has definitely saved lives, and certainly a lot of people that have been angry that the storm has definitely been overbaked, but I think that it is just a really good thing that the storm was overbaked in the first stages of its landfall, especially on the wind side of things. The fact that this storm was overbaked by the forecast initially has certainly saved lives and made people pay very close attention. It's certainly not over though. Like I said, the floodwaters will take a couple of days to recede, but the majority of this rainfall is now beginning to ease off and clear out of the southeast of Queensland, which is just great to see. By tonight, the recovery efforts and the damage assessments will be well underway by the State Emergency Service. I imagine Southeast Queensland is really looking forward to being able to rebuild what they've lost as a result of Tropical Cyclone Alfred. But one thing's for sure about Queenslanders is that they're definitely the most resilient state nationwide. No offence to all the other states around Australia, but Queensland definitely the most resilient state. They will rebuild and they will recover from ex-Tropical Cyclone Alfred. Thank you so much for all of the support and the coverage as well, all the donations, the kind words in the comment section, the new channel sponsors as well, and everybody that's watched, liked and subscribed over the last couple of weeks as well as a result of Tropical Cyclone Alfred. It's been an honour to cover the system as well and to be able to provide the warnings and the information necessary for people to make preparations for this tropical cyclone. I'm just an amateur forecaster at the end of the day, so what you do with my advice is up to you. But yeah, it certainly has been very heartwarming to see the reception of some of the coverage that I've given on Tropical Cyclone Alfred, and the fact that people are saying that because of your forecasts there's definitely been lives saved and damage averted across parts of southeast Queensland. It's heartwarming to see messages like that as well. And again, we did a very good job with the coverage on Tropical Cyclone Alfred as well. I believe I was 5 kilometres off with the landfall forecast and about 12 minutes early with the landfall forecast as well. So again, a really good forecast done by the CyclonesOZ channel here. I'm very, very happy with myself and very, very happy that we were able to get the information out early enough to southeast Queensland to, like I said, give people that warning time and the preparation time that they so desperately needed here with Tropical Cyclone Alfred. In the end, they were going to get it anyway. The system decided to stall for a day longer offshore from Queensland, so it was an awful storm to track, a very difficult forecast to make, but in the end it all came together and Tropical Cyclone Alfred's forecast made sense, and it certainly was a very good forecast for southeast Queensland with some very nasty ramifications, that's for sure. But moving forward now from southeast Queensland, there's not an awful lot on the long range forecast in terms of rainfall. I imagine this is a question on everybody's tongue, but I can put these thoughts and scares to bed. It looks like there's only about 50 millimetres or so over the next 14 days at the highest accumulations, and the majority of that will be falling over the next 14 hours or so by the looks of things. But rainfall accumulations over the next 14 days, nothing silly across the southeast of Queensland either. So again, those floodwaters will certainly be pretty quick to recede, that's for sure. Moving up north now and looking forward into the rainfall forecast now for Queensland's far north, you can see there's plenty of rainfall now on the forecast across the Cassowary coast, and it's reciprocated between forecast models as well. The GFS and the Axis all calling for some significant accumulations over the next 14 days, and I'll break those down for you in just a second. But taking a look at the radar imagery right now, there are some heavy showers across the Cassowary coast, with some heavy falls being reported into the North Innisfail area around the Johnston River released area. We can see some pretty significant rainfall accumulations right now developing on the radar imagery, with heaviest rain rates up to about 70 to 80 millimetres an hour through here. Some very heavy stuff, that's for sure. And all of this is developing from a surface trough that's really got its act together in the last hour, and as such we're seeing some very slow moving rain bands sliding into the North Queensland coastline. They're really stubborn and not going anywhere, and as such providing some very heavy accumulations and some very heavy bursts of rainfall as far south as Rollingstone, through Ingham and the Cardwell area, along the Hinchbrook Island and the Palm Island area as well, and then up into the Cassowary coast around Innisfail and Tully as well. Some very heavy accumulations beginning to develop there, and rainfall expected to be pretty stubborn to move as well, with falls just increasing in terms of intensity throughout the course of today. It's these surface troughs that often gets people off guard as well. They can develop very quickly and very subtly as well and provide some really significant rainfall accumulations, and the official forecast generally doesn't have very much to say about it because they're low resolution forecast models, which is what the official forecast is based off because it can go long range. They really don't they're not able to crunch out the data required across far north Queensland, which is why we make use of the convective forecast models to use for a rainfall forecast up in far north Queensland, because more often than not the convective forecast models just do it way better than the other forecast models. You can see showers continuing to develop throughout the remainder of today across the Cassowary coast. They will be heavy at times as well throughout much of today, especially in towards this afternoon and into this evening, and then into early tomorrow morning as well. We're expecting heavy showers in a very similar fashion to what we're seeing this morning across the Cassowary coast and up into the Daintree rainforest as well. Heavy showers tending to heavy rainfall at times continuing through tomorrow night as well and into early Thursday morning, and you can see 24-hourly rainfall accumulations throughout the remainder of today expected to be quite heavy across far north Queensland's area, with the highest accumulations up to about 150 millimetres through parts of the Daintree rainforest, and then accumulations between 50 to 150 millimetres expected between Cairns down to about Cardwell, including locations such as Innisfail and Tully. The heaviest falls will be quite isolated, but we're still expecting widespread falls around that 10 to 50 millimetre mark, especially considering the outer areas of these showers. They are quite large and they will be spreading themselves over quite a wide swathe of locations, but yeah, the heaviest falls extending down towards the Tully and the Cardwell area, and we'll be seeing isolated falls up to about 150 millimetres through those areas as well. There is a chance of some heavy falls down towards the Townsville area as well. You can see some rainfall extending as far south as Rollingstone, and I imagine later on into this afternoon around the Townsville area, even down towards Ayr along a trough line that's developing just inland. We will be seeing some thunderstorms begin to develop down there as well, and heavy showers tending towards heavy rainfall at times now developing between Mackay down towards Rockhampton, through West Hill, Serena and Clairview, and right down towards Ogmore and Yapoon as well. There's some heavy showers developing in these areas as well, and they're also very stubborn and very slow moving and not expected to go anywhere, and just expected to continue developing as well on the southern extremities of the Whitsundays. And you can see that now over the last 1 hour of radar imagery, there are some heavy falls beginning to develop in this area as well. Plenty of convective energy along this part of Queensland's coastline as well. I mean, if we take a look at the convective available potential energy values as well throughout the remainder of today, they are really high indeed, and as such, that's why we're seeing so much convective developments later on this afternoon and into this evening along this part of Queensland. There's a lot of energy for these systems to make use of, so as such, plenty of thunderstorms and plenty of widespread showers expected to take hold. But that's just throughout the course of today. Let's take a look at the long-range forecast now for the far northern reaches of Queensland. Lots of rainfall on the forecast. I mean, just take a look at what the axis has to say about the rainfall forecast here, with peak accumulations up to about 750 millimetres now on the forecast of parts of the Cassowary Coast, and dare I say, there will be more rainfall than that coming through over the next 14 days, that's for sure. So as we have taken a look at it already, there's going to be heavy showers throughout the remainder of today and into early tomorrow morning as well. The showers will ease off through Thursday. We are expecting that rainfall to temporarily clear out on Thursday before it pipes up again on Friday. What's going to be happening is we're going to see a monsoon trough develop across the what are they called? The northern parts of the Cape York Peninsula and then the Torres Strait Islands. That's the name. We're going to see a monsoon trough to begin to develop there, and a bit of a tropical low develop into the Gulf of Carpentaria, which, stay with me, is quite important to the forecast up in far north Queensland, and that's going to funnel in plenty of rainfall ashore up into the far northern reaches of Queensland through this weekend, especially through the Daintree rainforest. Rainfall will be very heavy towards intense at times through Saturday afternoon and into Sunday evening, and then through Sunday morning, expecting that heavy rainfall to develop along the Cassowary Coast as this monsoon trough heads south. Rainfall will be moderate to heavy at times as far south as Townsville, and then moderate further south of Townsville down towards Mackay, with moderate rainfall extending down into the Whitsundays through Sunday night into Monday morning, which could actually get heavier times through Sunday night into Monday morning. The heaviest falls will be concentrated up in the Cassowary Coast between Sunday the 16th of March right out through Monday the 17th, Tuesday the 18th, and then beginning to clear out by around Thursday the 20th towards Friday the 21st of March. But there will be very heavy periods of rainfall up here. Multiple days of some pretty intense rainfall can be expected along the Cassowary Coast, again with that heavy burst of rain coming through between the 18th out towards the 21st of March. Heavy falls, like I said, starting up on the 15th and the 16th. They'll ease off a little bit along the Cassowary Coast through Monday the 17th, and then, like I said, they pipe up again between the 18th and the 21st of March, and as such, that will give way to week-long rainfall accumulations up around that 600 to 700 millimetre mark, and 14-day rainfall accumulations up around that, 750 millimetre mark. And keep in mind that the axis forecast here only goes out about 10 days, so if we extrapolate that to the next 14 days, some really heavy rainfall can be expected. And you can see, as I look at the Eastern Weather forecast model beyond about the 20th of March, the rainfall is still going to be heavy across the Cassowary Coast. It will remain heavy right out towards the end of March by the looks of things. This monsoon trough will be pretty slow to weaken off, but once it does weaken off and that tropical low heads away from the Gulf of Carpentaria coastline, we will be seeing some pretty significant rainfall drops across parts of far north Queensland. Anyways, in terms of the numbers, they are still a little bit hazy at this time, especially in terms of what numbers can exactly be expected over the next 14 days. We do have a pretty good idea though, and I'm going to be going through that place by place in the next couple of minutes as well, so stick with me here. Rainfall accumulation still very heavily tied on whether this tropical low on the Gulf of Carpentaria is closer towards Queensland or over the Northern Territory. If it heads over towards the Northern Territory, it will be a lot lighter the rainfall across far north Queensland, but if it is closer to the Mornington Island area, the rainfall for far north Queensland will be very heavy and quite intense at times as well. Need I say much more about the rainfall forecast there? And it's still about a 50-50 split. We're not 100% sure on what is expected there, but in terms of the worst case scenario for rainfall, and I must repeat that this is the worst case scenario in terms of rainfall here, up into the Daintree rainforest, accumulations around that 500 to 600 millimetre mark can be expected out towards the 21st of March. Accumulations around Port Douglas will be up to 500 millimetres. For Cairns, rainfall accumulations up to about 300 millimetres, but they could be heavier along the Yarrabah Peninsula, up to about 500 millimetres possible there. Heading down the coastline as well around the Innisfail area, especially around Belen and Kerr, rainfall accumulations could be as high as 1,000 millimetres along the coastline there. Innisfail itself expecting about 500 millimetres as well. Tully expecting about 550 millimetres, and then around the Mission Beach area, and through some of the locations but along the coastline between Innisfail and Tully, rainfall accumulations up to 1,000 millimetres are possible there over the next 2 weeks. Rainfall accumulations on Hinchbrook Island will be up to about 750 millimetres, into the Cardwell area up to about 400 millimetres, and then down towards Ingham, Lucinda and Halifax, rainfall accumulations up to about 500 millimetres can be expected in those areas. Palm Island looking at about 500 millimetres of rainfall as well. South of that into some of the mountains outside of Ingham and through to about Rollingston, rainfall accumulations up to about 500 millimetres can be expected there. Into the Townsville area, about 250 millimeters can be expected over the next 14 days. Again, that's pretty heavy for Townsville, that's for sure, and certainly quite a lot of rainfall on top of the stuff that they saw into late January and into early February. They will be more or less pretty much dried out after that rainfall when this stuff starts to come through here, but certainly this will be the type of rainfall that could cause some problems in terms of the floodwaters again up there, so we'll pay close attention to this rainfall, that's for sure. Along the coastline between Townsville right down towards the Whitsundays, looking at between 150 out to about 200 millimeters of rainfall. Rainfall will likely jump up around the Proserpine area as well, up to about 300 millimeters, just depending on the way that this rainfall comes in. If it comes in from the southeast, we'll be seeing some significant force in those areas, and accumulations around the Whitsundays, including Hamilton Island, around that 150 millimeter mark. Outside of Mackay, rainfall accumulations up to about 150 millimeters, also expected into the Pioneer River catchment out towards Gargett. Accumulations up to 250 millimeters can be expected out there, and then rainfall dropping off as we get south of Mackay through Serena and then down towards Clairview and St. Lawrence, with only a couple of drops of rainfall expected here and there in those areas. Rainfall accumulations across the northwest of Queensland will also be quite heavy as well, and I'll show you what I mean by that developing tropical low in the Gulf of Carpentaria. If we see it develop in the Gulf of Carpentaria through the 18th out to about the 21st of March, that's when the rainfall will be at its heaviest across the far northern reaches of Queensland, and as a result we'll be seeing some very heavy falls if this Gulf of Carpentaria tropical low strays closer to the Queensland side of things as opposed to the Northern Territory side of things. And you can see it's not at cyclone status as this forecast is suggesting right now, and it wouldn't really be much of a change in the forecast if it does get up towards tropical cyclone status, but depending on where this rainfall is going to be, it's very dependent on where this tropical low is going to be as well. Like I said, for the nth time this forecast update, if it's closer to the Gulf of Carpentaria, or the Gulf of Carpentaria, the Northern Territory side of things, then the rainfall will be lighter for North Queensland, but if it's closer to the Cape York Peninsula, rainfall will be much heavier across far North Queensland. Anyway, so that is enough talk on the rainfall right now. Still a little bit murky with the forecast, and certainly if you do live up in far North Queensland, it's time to pay very close attention to the forecast over the next 14 days as well. There'll be daily updates on this forecast situation as well on the CyclonesOZ channel, so make sure you are subscribed so you don't miss a further update. When this rainfall does begin to really pipe up across far North Queensland, twice daily updates will return as well. But in terms of the rainfall forecast for far North Queensland, it's still a little bit murky at this time, and certainly still quite a few discrepancies in the forecast that need to be ironed out, so don't go around and make preparations right now. Certainly no panic buying or anything like that, and also need to stress that a tropical cyclone is not coming. A lot of people tend to think that when I talk about rainfall up in far North Queensland, so again, a tropical cyclone is not coming, so there's no need to be making preparations for that at this time, but certainly something to keep in the back of your head and start thinking about over the next couple of days as well. And I'll have definitive answers on what you need to be doing and what's expected come around this week. And anyways, let's head over towards Western Australia just briefly to wrap this video up, talking about the tropical cyclone that's expected to develop up there. You can see later on the forecast period for the GFS and the Eastern Weather forecast model, we are expecting some kind of tropical cyclone development much later on into the forecast period. A monsoon trough expected to build across the northwest corner of WA, south of Indonesia, and we can see a bit of a tropical low beginning to develop there through the 22nd out towards the 25th of March. Now, as I look at the Eastern Weather forecast here, it looks like it's going to be sliding straight in towards the northwest corner of Western Australia with really nothing in its way by the looks of things. The GFS does paint a bit of a different picture here, with that tropical low developing in the Joseph Bonaparte Gulf and then swinging out into the northwest corners of Western Australia. And then by the looks of things, it's a bit too early to tell what this track is going to be doing, but it looks like it is going to be heading down towards the West Australian coastline as well. So I want to use this part of the video to be saying that if you do live across the northwest corner of Western Australia between Exmouth out towards Broome, remain vigilant, especially considering it's this time of the year as well. We're talking about tropical cyclone season, so keep remaining vigilant for tropical cyclone activity. And I would just like to say that there is a very, very slim chance right now of tropical cyclones moving through your area between about the 25th out to about the 29th of March. Now, long-range forecast models can be pretty uncertain, especially when we've got the GFS saying one thing, the Eastern Weather saying another thing entirely. But speaking of principle right here, the forecast models are actually pretty congruent in terms of timing, location, and also in terms of intensity. So I do have a bit of confidence in saying that this system here is very likely to happen, and considering it will also coincide with the development of a monsoon trough and the Mad-Julian oscillation returning for northwest and Western Australia, I certainly do have quite a lot of confidence in saying that we do expect a tropical cyclone to develop into the backside of March between the 24th out to about the 30th of March. I do expect a cyclone to develop. Now, if we do see this cyclone go into Western Australia at a reasonable intensity, Category 2 up to about Category 4 status, I will be heading up there to chase this tropical cyclone as well. So I want to be saying that to get people excited. We could be getting some pretty good footage out of this system, that's for sure here. But at this time here, there's no real saying on whether this is going to be a significant tropical cyclone impact for the northwest corner of Western Australia. How strong it's going to be is still way up in arms. And in terms of the expected movement and landfall location of this tropical cyclone. It's still very much up in arms at this time. We're not 100% sure, that's for sure. Anyways, in terms of the general Australia weather forecast, there's not an awful lot to talk about. A bit of a cold front which could spark a few thunderstorms across the southwest of Western Australia are expected to move in through tomorrow and in towards Thursday. A couple of good drops of rainfall expected here and there across the southwest corner of Western Australia, with up to 50 millimetres of much needed rainfall possible in thunderstorms expected out into parts of the central and out towards the eastern wheat belt and parts of the goldfields and Gascoyne region through a bit of a cold front moving through, like I said, Wednesday night into Thursday morning. But in terms of significant rainfall accumulations elsewhere, nothing really to be talking about. Now, if you're wondering why I'm talking so fast, I forgot to hit record on the first part of this, or the first take of this video. I got to the 24-minute mark on the recording, and I realized that I wasn't recording, and I was so angry with myself. So that's why the speech has been a little bit fast, and I've artificially slowed this video down just so people are able to make sense of it. But in terms of the recording time for this forecast update today and the forecast in general, that is all that I have time for, and I want to thank everybody for the recent support on the channel as well. A special shout out, of course, to the channel sponsors. The names are on screen right now, and again, I could not run the show without them, and I'll catch you all at the next storm. Goodbye.